Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive. It's all about relationships. How to build stronger ones,
hmm
the kind that make life richer, more meaningful. And we've got some really cool stuff to dive into today. You sent over this book, How to Make People Like You,
Yeah.
which just the title alone, I was
It
like,
grabs you.
oh, yeah. And then the chapters, the power of forgiveness, words, the power of light and dark magic. I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
It makes you want to pick it up and start reading right away.
It does.
Yeah.
And you also included a link to this website called The Art of Mastery, which is all about confidence.
Yes.
So we're going to go through all of this, pull out the most practical tips, the stuff you can actually use.
Use that.
Exactly. Whether you're trying to strengthen your friendships, find a romantic partner, or even just navigate those tricky work relationships, we've got you covered.
And what we'll try to do is not only share those practical tips, but also, connect them to some of the broader psychological principles behind them. And of course, keep an eye out for any potential downsides or things to be cautious about as we, go through this material.
Awesome. So, How to Make People Like You starts off strong with a section on starting new relationships. And guess what? It all begins with something so simple:
What's that?
a smile.
A smile.
Yeah.
That's a smile.
There's actually a study from 2002 from Sweden where they found that people instinctively mirror smiles.
Wait, really?
Yeah, you know how sometimes you can't help but yawn when someone else yawns?
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to that.
So our brains are actually wired to just react that way.
Exactly. It's because of something called the mirror neuron system.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, these neurons, they fire both when we perform an action, like smiling, and when we observe someone else doing it. So when we see a smile, our mirror neurons activate as if we're the ones smiling.
Wow.
It's really cool.
So that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when someone smiles at you, it's not just in your head, it's actual neuroscience happening.
I love that.
It's pretty fascinating.
You know what? I'm going to try this out today. I challenge you, dear listener, to do the same. Just smile at a few people you encounter and see what happens. Maybe you'll start a chain reaction of smiles.
I love it.
Right. Okay. So besides smiling, the book also emphasizes the importance of making the first move.
Oh, yeah.
Like taking initiative, putting yourself out there, which I know can be
Could be scary.
super daunting. The book actually tells this funny anecdote about the author feeling envious of her coworker.
Oh.
This guy who was super charismatic. Everyone loved him.
Everyone loved him.
Even the postman,
Wow.
And she realized it was because he was just so good at striking up conversations, initiating those connections.
He wasn't afraid to put himself out there.
Yeah. And it highlights how fear of rejection can be such a
Yeah,
roadblock.
absolutely.
Even though actually research shows it's often way overblown.
Yeah, we tend to overestimate the likelihood of rejection.
Yeah. All right, so smiling more, making the first move.
Check and check.
Got it. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The book suggests that asking someone for a favor can actually make them like you more.
Interesting.
Now, that sounds super counterintuitive, right?
It does. Why would that be?
Yeah, why would that be?
I'm curious.
So apparently it plays on our desire to feel helpful
Wait.
and competent. When you ask someone for a favor, you're kind of implying that you trust them, you value their opinion or their abilities.
Like a little ego boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes them feel good.
Exactly.
And, that reminds me of this famous Harvard study. It was on very happy people.
Oh, wow.
And they found a strong correlation between helping others
Interesting.
and happiness.
Yeah.
So in a way, by asking for a small favor, you might actually be contributing to their happiness.
Oh, I like that.
Of course, you got to be genuine about it. Don't be manipulative.
Right. It's got to be authentic.
Yeah.
So we've covered smiling, initiating contact, and even strategically asking for favors. That's a pretty good start.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It's all about those small, authentic interactions,
Yeah.
that really build the foundation for connection.
Totally. So we've talked about those initial sparks, getting the conversation going, making a good first impression.
Mm-hmm.
But now, how do we turn those interactions into something deeper, something that lasts?
Yeah, that's the real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one thing to start a conversation, but it's a whole other thing to nurture those connections into something truly meaningful.
It is. And I think the source material you sent over is packed with advice on that.
Definitely.
One thing that really jumps out at me is active listening.
Oh, yeah. Active listening is huge.
It's something you hear so much about.
Absolutely.
But I feel like it's one of those things that's easier said than done, you
It,
know?
it, it really is. I mean, it sounds simple, but it actually requires a lot of conscious effort.
Right.
And, Carl Rogers, who was a pioneer in humanistic psychology,
Mm.
he considered active listening to be absolutely essential for healthy relationships.
It makes sense when you think about it, because when someone really listens to us without interrupting,
Right.
Yeah. without judgment,
Yeah,
it makes us feel seen, it makes us feel understood.
absolutely.
And that creates a sense of safety and trust,
It does.
which are like the foundations of any strong bond.
Exactly. And you know what? How to make people like you actually goes beyond the typical active listening advice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they offer a really specific, actionable tip.
Okay.
2-sentence answers.
2-sentence answers. Yeah. What's that?
So basically, when someone asks you a question, you answer it directly.
Okay.
But then you follow up with the why behind your answer.
Okay.
So they give this funny example
Okay.
of a conversation happening in a gym changing room.
Okay. I can imagine.
And one person asks the other about their workout routine.
Right.
So instead of just saying, oh, I'm doing cardio today,
Yeah.
you give a little bit more like, I'm doing cardio today because I'm training for a marathon and it helps me build endurance.
Okay. I see.
You see?
Yeah. So it's like you're giving them a little more to work with.
Exactly. And it just keeps the conversation flowing.
Right.
It has that extra layer of depth.
And what I love is that the book makes this point that the 2-sentence answers don't just benefit the other person, it actually helps you understand yourself better.
Right.
Because you're like forced to think about like,
Yeah.
okay, why am I doing this?
Yeah. What's the motivation behind it?
Exactly. And that self-reflection, the book argues, can actually boost confidence over time.
Yeah. You start to become more aware of your motivations, your values, your thought processes.
No, I like that.
So it's really a win-win.
It is.
You're building that connection with the other person, but at the same time, you're deepening your understanding of yourself.
Okay. I am on board with the 2-sentence answer thing officially.
I love it.
Okay. Now, besides active listening, another big theme that I saw in the source material was shared interests.
Oh, yeah. Shared interests are huge.
Huge. And there's that famous C.S. Lewis quote,
I love this one.
"Friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, 'What, you too? I thought I was the only one.'"
So good.
Right. And there's actually neuroscience to back this up.
There is.
This study in the Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience Journal, they found that friends' brains display the same activity when one of them is given a mild electric shock.
Whoa. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Like their brains actually sync up.
Isn't that crazy?
That is so
It
cool.
highlights this mirroring effect that happens in those close relationships.
Yeah, it's like our brains are literally wired to resonate with those who share our experiences.
It's so true.
Our values, our passions.
Because when you have something in common with someone, it creates that instant bond.
Right.
Like that understanding.
Yeah, you have something to talk about. You have
Yeah.
something to laugh about, to
Right.
connect over.
I remember this guy I used to see at the gym all the time.
Okay.
Super nice, always chatty. But we never really formed a bond beyond just like, hey, what's up?
Oh, interesting.
And I think it's because we had almost nothing in common.
I see.
He was all about competitive swimming and like really intense training.
Yeah.
And I'm just there to like splash around after a workout, you know?
He's different.
Totally different.
So it really does make a difference.
Yeah, and it's not even just hobbies.
Right.
It's also about those deeper things like shared values.
Yeah.
Goals.
That sense of alignment in our core beliefs
Totally.
and aspirations.
Yeah, and it makes me think of that Gary Vaynerchuk quote.
Hey, yeah.
You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
That's a powerful one.
It is. It really makes you think about who you're spending time with.
It does. It's worth taking a moment to reflect on, who are those 5 people?
Right.
Are they lifting you up?
Are they bringing you down?
Are they challenging you to supporting your dreams, or are they holding you back?
Ooh, big questions. Okay.
Big questions.
That leads us to another point from the source material shared experiences.
Oh, yes.
Psychology Today actually had this article about how our brains reward social connection with all those feel-good chemicals.
Dopamine, serotonin, all the good stuff.
Yeah, and those rewards are even bigger when we share those positive experiences with other people.
Like building a shared history, right?
Mhm.
A collection of memories that strengthen those bonds.
And it made me think back to when I was younger. I was so over-reliant on this tiny group of friends. Like my whole world revolved around them.
I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially when we're younger.
And looking back, I realized like it wasn't healthy, you know?
Right.
I wasn't giving myself the space to grow,
You need that space.
to explore other relationships.
You do. Even positive relationships need space to breathe.
Yeah. absence makes the heart grow fonder or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about starting conversations, the power of active listening.
Two-sentence answers.
Two-sentence answers. Yes, finding common ground, creating those shared experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this whole other layer to all of this
Yeah,
that we haven't even touched on yet.
Right. Like we've explored how to connect with others.
Yeah.
But what about the foundation? What about the stuff that makes us capable of those strong connections in the first place?
Yeah, it's like we've covered so much, like how to, put yourself out there, really listen to others,
Mm-hmm.
find that common ground.
Yeah.
But you're right, there's this whole other piece.
A foundation.
Yes.
Foundation of it all.
What makes us ready for these amazing relationships?
And how to make people like you makes this really interesting point.
Okay.
Strong relationships actually begin with a strong relationship with yourself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful when you say it like that.
Isn't it?
Because how can we expect to connect authentically with other people if we haven't even taken the time to connect with ourselves?
Exactly. And this aligns perfectly with research on self-compassion.
Mm.
Treating ourselves with kindness and understanding.
Yeah.
Studies show a clear link between self-compassion and both better mental health and better relationships.
So it's not selfish to prioritize our own well-being.
No. No, I don't.
It's actually essential.
It's essential. And the book explores this concept through the lens of vulnerability.
Ah, vulnerability. That's a big one.
It is a big one.
It's like a buzzword these days.
It is.
I'll admit it still makes me a little uncomfortable.
I understand vulnerability can feel really scary
Yeah.
because it requires us to let go of that need to appear perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and allow ourselves to be seen imperfections. And
Yeah, and what if people judge us?
Right. And that's the
Right.
fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what's so fascinating is that research, particularly by Brené Brown, has shown that vulnerability is actually the birthplace of connection
Oh, wow.
and courage, not weakness.
So embracing vulnerability can actually make us stronger.
That's exactly what Brené Brown's research suggests.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, it's amazing work.
Flipping the script.
It is.
Okay, so how to make people like you gives this example that really illustrates this point.
Okay.
Someone with trust issues,
Mm-hmm.
hiding their feelings from their partner
Right.
out of fear of being judged.
It's so common.
But then that secrecy ends up sabotaging the relationship.
Right, because it prevents true connection.
Exactly.
You're not really letting the other person in.
Yeah, and so it's about finding that balance, right?
It is.
We don't have to share everything with everyone.
Right.
But those small acts of vulnerability,
Yes.
those moments of letting someone in,
That's where the magic happens.
they can be so powerful. Okay, and one of my favorite takeaways from the book
Okay.
is this idea of trying something new regularly.
I love that.
The book actually mentions a quote from a Harvard doctor
Oh, wow.
about how our brains are constantly growing new cells.
It's true. Our brains are amazing.
And I think that's such a good reminder that we're capable of change and growth
Absolutely. We are constantly evolving.
when you're at our lives. Yes.
Yeah, like for me, it was something as simple as ditching my all-black wardrobe.
Oh, fun.
It sounds silly, but it actually made a big difference in how I felt about myself.
I bet it did.
It was like I was giving myself permission to express myself more.
Exactly. And it highlights how those small acts of courage, those steps outside our comfort zones, can really contribute to our overall sense of self-confidence
I love that.
and well-being.
Okay, here's another big idea from How to Make People Like You that I want to unpack.
Okay.
Unconditional giving.
Ah, yes. Giving without expecting anything in return.
That's a beautiful concept,
It is.
but I think it can be really tricky in practice.
It can be because, sometimes we fall into that trap of giving only to get something back.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's validation, reciprocation, even a sense of control.
Right, and then it's not truly selfless.
Exactly. It's coming from a place of neediness
Yeah,
or a desire to manipulate the other person.
and the book gives this example of a guy who's constantly doing nice things for his girlfriend.
But then he feels unappreciated because she doesn't do the same for him.
Right, so it creates this imbalance
Yeah.
that can lead to resentment.
And that reminds me of the other source you shared,
Oh, yeah.
Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements.
Love that book.
Specifically, that chapter on the power of words.
Oh, such an important topic.
He talks about how our words can have a huge impact.
They really can.
They shape not only our own reality, but
Mhm.
also the realities of others.
It's true. We have to be mindful of the words we use.
He has this really sad story about a mother criticizing her daughter's singing,
Oh.
and it makes the girl believe that she's bad at it,
Oh, no.
and it silences her beautiful voice forever.
That's heartbreaking. But it's a powerful illustration of how much weight our words carry.
We have the power to uplift or destroy.
It's true. And it ties into this concept of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
This idea that our words can literally shape our own and others' beliefs and behaviors.
It's so true. And the way we talk to ourselves,
Hmm.
the way we talk to others, it has such a profound impact.
Absolutely.
But the good news is that we can choose to use our words consciously, you know,
We can't.
to create positive change, to foster those connections.
Exactly.
Even small things like just reframing how we talk about a task
Hmm?
can change our whole outlook.
Absolutely.
Like instead of saying, I have to work on this project,
Yeah.
you could say, I get to work on this project.
I love that it's a subtle shift,
It is.
but it changes the whole energy of the interaction.
It does. Okay, so we've talked about self-compassion, vulnerability, the power of trying new things, unconditional giving, and the impact of our words. That's a lot.
It is.
But how to make people like you actually offer some final wisdom for maintaining relationships over time.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So first, it emphasizes quality time over quantity.
Quality over quantity always.
And this actually connects back to that study we mentioned earlier about how women often prioritize romantic partners over friends, which can actually lead to problems in both types of relationships.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's about nurturing all of our important relationships, romantic and platonic,
Yes.
by making time for connection and shared experiences.
Exactly. And equally important is carving out that you time.
Yes, you need that time to recharge,
Yeah.
to connect with your own needs.
To pursue your own interests.
Absolutely. Self-care and healthy boundaries are essential.
Yes. And finally, the book ends on such a powerful note.
Okay.
The importance of forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Wow.
It tells this incredible story
Okay.
of Immaculée Ilibagiza,
Mhm.
a Rwandan genocide survivor
Wow.
who forgave the man who killed her family.
That is incredible.
It's a testament to the power of forgiveness.
It really is. It highlights how forgiveness isn't about condoning the action,
Right.
but it's about releasing ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment.
Choosing to heal.
Yes.
Choosing to move forward.
Even in the face of unimaginable pain.
Wow, what a powerful way to end this deep dive.
It is.
So as we wrap up, I have a question for you, dear listener.
Okay.
Which of these ideas resonated most with you?
Yeah, which one are you going to take with you?
Which one maybe sparks something inside you, like urging you to take action?
Pick one small step you can implement this week.
Yeah.
Remember, even tiny changes consistently applied can lead to big shifts over time.
So true.
So don't try to overhaul your entire life. Just pick one small thing and focus on that.
Love that. And here's a final thought for you,
Okay.
inspired by Immaculate's story.
Mm-hmm.
Could forgiveness, even in those less extreme situations,
Yeah,
be the key to unlocking deeper connections and even inner peace?
that's a beautiful thought.
Something to think about until next time. Happy connecting.